Not that bad. Not so bad that I wanted to leave it alone. Good evening. My name is Michelle Scully, and I am one of the co-chairs of the Friends of MCU Lakeside campus. Our chair, Brock Falkenberg, is right there, and my co-chair, Will DeShock, is right behind him. And if you are a friend, would you raise your hand so we can see you? Thank you, guys. If you look at them, the Friends put on this distinguished speaker series we started last year, so if you give them all a hand for doing this, it's kind of cool. So thank you for coming tonight. This is the second evening in our distinguished speaker series this year, which is called From Grape to Glass, the past, present, and future of agriculture in Lake County. Thank you so much also for your donations tonight. The Friends is generating scholarships for students who go to school here at MCU Lakeside campus, and they appreciate it greatly, so thank you so much for all of your donations. Tonight's sponsor of this event is Community Development Services of Kelseyville. Are you guys in here?
He's coming right up the stairs.
Right. When they come, be like, oh my gosh, thank you. And we have other community sponsors too. We were just thanking our sponsor for tonight, Community Development Services of Kelseyville. Plus he was the wine pourer guy, so we're not sure exactly why we're clapping for you. One of our goals in creating this series was that it's not just put forward by the Friends, but that we gather along the way community partners and sponsors. And so we're really, really fortunate to have a really wonderful group of people. The Friends of the Lake County Museum, Hawk and Horse Vineyards, Lake County Farm Bureau, Lake Co News, give them a shout out in the back. That's John taping this, which will be on their YouTube channel. Lake County Publishing, Lake County Resource Conservation District, Lake County Winery Association, Middletown Mercury, our Vineyards, Sierra Club Lake Group, Shannon Ridge, and Six Sigma Ranch and Winery. So if we could give them all a big hand. And come back next month. It's the conclusion of our series, and it has food and wine. What gets better than that? And we're very excited to be hosting Robert Bath, a professor of wine and beverage studies at the CIA. Does that always make you feel like you did something bad? It's the Culinary Institute of America in Napa Valley, and he's a member of the Court of Master Sommeliers. That's one of those words you're like, please let me just read it, not say it out loud, but I did good. This special program will feature locally sourced foods paired with Lake County wines, and it is sponsored generously by the Lake County Wine Grape Commission. So that's December 1. Do not miss that. That's the conclusion of the Distinguished Speaker Series for this year. And our presentation tonight is a panel discussion with an overarching topic of sustainable practices in viticulture, but it's going to be so much more than that. And I am very, very excited to have this group of panelists here. When we talked about what this format would be, I said, I know exactly who they should be. And we're really, really fortunate that when I reached out to them, none of them went, oh, I'm super busy that night. They all immediately said, sign me up. So we're really, really fortunate. I know each of them in different capacities. But the reason that I thought of them to form this panel were multiple, not just for their knowledge and expertise in the topic, but that they're all unique in their skill sets, but they're all united in their passion for what they do and their passion in outreach and advocacy for our communities. So I'm super excited to have them here tonight. So I'm going to let them tell you about themselves in greater detail, but I'd like to introduce them briefly and then we'll get started. Tracy Hopkins is founding partner and executive winemaker at Hawk and Horse Vineyards, where she and her husband Mitch farm organically and biodynamically. And she's also a tireless advocate for her community, and we're super glad to have her here tonight. Tracy. Paul Zellman is the man in the middle. He can take the heat from both directions. He's the Director of Education for the Lake County Wine Grape Commission. He's a viticulture instructor at Mendocino College, and he's what I like to think of as the genius behind the Master of Vineyard. Did I do that right?
Stick with sommelier.
I was thinking I'm going to go home feeling so proud of myself. He'll say it for you. But it's a genius program, and I hope you
I will mention,
touch on that
yes,
tonight.
it's part of
Thank you.
sustainability.
So let's welcome Paul. And Christian Ullman, whose title is Vice President of Operations of his family's Six Sigma Ranch and Vineyards. Not only do they grow grapes and produce wine, but they raise pasture-fed beef, lamb, and swine, and they have, from what I've heard, notable swoon-worthy bacon. Christian, I know him as a friend also, and his commitment to sustainable business and his family's commitment to supporting this community are really spectacular, and so we're incredibly fortunate to have him here tonight. So let's thank Christian, and let's kick this thing off.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank all of you. I'm really honored to be here. It was an honor to have been asked. Really honored to be at Marymount College and to support this wonderful little branch of this university. I hope it continues to stay and thrive here. I'm here to talk about biodynamic farming and Lake County terroir. How to do on that one? Another one of those tricky words. Which, and I'm sure you all know when we say that word terroir, we're talking about what makes an area special. So it's the soil, the air, the water, and here also we have the high elevations, but I'll go into that a little later. But I really want to start with a word that for me sums up Lake County wine and the wine growing region here, and that is excellence. When my family wanted to develop a vineyard of their own, we looked all throughout the North Coast region, including Napa, Sonoma, Mendocino, and then Lake. Lake wasn't much in terms of wine then, but we found this 950-acre property that had everything. On-site spring water, 2 small lakes, gorgeous volcanic soils. And so we decided to set our sights on Lake County, and with always an eye for excellence. We knew we never wanted to be the biggest, so we really focused on quality. We saw something here that we didn't really see anywhere else. Value, but really that intense quality. We would have paid many times more for a property like that somewhere else if we could have found one. You don't find it anywhere else. With the elevation, the water, the microclimates, and then we also are seeing this potential in the culture here. And I think that's something that Lake County needs to continue to work on. It's changed and grown since we've come in with more wineries and people being really committed to our communities. We're seeing that. But I really still see a deep potential there that we'd like to expand. And I think we've been excited about Marymount College. I understand this is the first year that the college has graduated a class through the college here. So I think it's exciting to have people come into our community from a place like this. So see if I can get this to switch to my next. At Hawk and Horse Vineyards, we're Demeter Biodynamic certified, as well as being CCOF Organic certified. Organic is sort of a way that says, well, don't put any chemical products in your vineyard. Well, then what do you do? Biodynamics is a way that we enliven the soil and feed the vines using things like compost manure. We keep a herd of Scottish Highland cattle on our property so we can produce our own compost and vineyard preps. This is my husband's office at 2,200 feet elevation. I am in the cellar and in the office selling wine most of the time. I mean, and you all are familiar with the Lake County diamonds. I brought some. They're on the counter downstairs at the bar if you want to take a look. But these are a form of silica that are found nowhere else on Earth. I mean, Lake County is so special. And when we go out into the world and share our wines, we bring Lake County diamonds. When people buy wine gifts for, we have people that buy 500 gifts at a time at Christmas for people all around New York and DC, and we include the Lake County diamonds in with the wine. So they're getting a sense of place from here. They're starting to appreciate what a beautiful thing. Nobody in Napa is doing that. We're also, our vineyard represents the southwest corner of the Red Hills AVA. It wasn't the Red Hills AVA when we bought it, but we knew it was special and beautiful with that red soil and those Lake County diamonds. These are also red. This is our Scottish Highland cattle. We chose this breed because they're very rugged. They can thrive where other cattle have come and gone. We also wanted cows with horns because they are very independent. They're also extremely gentle. The Highland, Scottish Highland cattle were the oldest registered breed of cattle, so they're extremely domestic, and in spite of their sort of wild look, they're very gentle. That is one of our bulls. I think that one's name is DB for Daisy's boy. And then this is one of the things that we do. So we don't harvest the horns from our cows. We buy organic horns from an organic meat producer, but we use them as a vessel. So people wonder about this a lot. The cow horn is kind of synonymous for biodynamic farming. What we actually use them for, as you can see, there's a 6-foot deep hole. We bury the horns in the cow pasture, not in the vineyard, over the winter. That we fill them with manure from a pregnant or lactating cow because it happens to just be more bioactive. We let them ferment in the horn over winter when the soil is more moist and lots of microbial activity is going on. People think of winter as dormancy, but in the earth and in the root zone, things become really alive. So when you look at the vineyard, you're seeing dormancy on the part of the vine that's exposed, but the root zone is very active. So then in the spring, we empty these out. So now it's almost like a coffee ground consistency, and we make a tea out of that. We mix it into a barrel of, we actually use a little wine barrel of water, and we spray it on the vineyard floor in the spring to enliven the soil, sort of like a probiotic. And this is a closer look. You can see the little bit of white on the manure there that my husband's holding in his hands, and that is showing that there's bacterial-friendly fauna and flora growing in there. And here is the vineyard in dormancy as I was describing. But if you look at the vineyard floor, you can see that life, that bright green grass coming. We use bird boxes, hawk perches, owl boxes to encourage biodiversity. The bluebirds come around, and in the spring when we have leaf hoppers, they help to keep that in check. The owls hunt gophers at night, usually. This one came out and said hello during the day. Of course, our beautiful red-tailed hawks. People often ask us why we named our winery Hawk and Horse Vineyards. We were developing something here in Lake County, which is really generational farm country. A lot of cowboys still here. Where else can you go to a rodeo almost every weekend during the summer? And so we wanted something that was authentic to this place. And my daughter, who was 10 at the time, said, well, what about hawks and horses, Mommy? And thanks to these gorgeous red-tailed hawks, I thought that was a perfect fit. We do use horses on the ranch to ride the fence line. We actually extend all the way back to Six Sigma. The east side of our property is on Spruce Grove Road. And there are parts of the property that you can't get to on a Jeep. I mean, the dirt bikes do it, but I'm not a dirt bike guy, so we ride horses. And it took a lot of staging to get that photo. We actually left the ranch in the dark of night, like 5 o'clock in the morning, to get there just in time for sunrise, but it turned out beautifully. And Mitch and or I have our hands in every single line many times throughout the year. This is a photo just before we begin to prune, really deciding what tuberous spurs to keep, how to prune for the coming year. And then as you see the vineyard develop through the spring, you're seeing a lot of beneficial ground cover coming through. It was carefully selected. We like to use what we can that's indigenous, but then we also want to bring in ladybug, butterfly, and hummingbird attractants. So we have our insectary growing right in there. When you go into the vineyard after bud break and things are happening in there, it really thrums. You can almost feel it with the hummingbirds and the honeybees, and it's just incredible. You can see the vineyard floor right here. This is featuring an owl box, but if you look at the vineyard floor, you can see how wild and woolly this is. We do not strip spray. We just mow every other road periodically to prevent frost, and then we sort of just let things go. And here you go, the vineyard in summer, and it's extraordinary to me. We do drip irrigation just at the base of the vines and only when needed, but yet look how beautifully green this area is. Even though this is obviously harvest time, you can see the beautiful ripe fruit. Now we're getting, it's looking dry because we have mowed, and it's just before harvest right here. I love this saying, and this is Galileo Galilei. The sun, with all those planets revolving around it and dependent upon it, can still ripen a bunch of grapes as though there was nothing else in the world to do. And I love that because as long as we get out of the way, it's like raising a child. You don't want to do too much. And we have another little saying about biodynamic farming that if you push it in here, it'll pop out over there. So biodynamic farming is about making small corrections, just like how maybe you would nudge your child one way or another. If you push them too hard, they're going to go the other way, right? So it's very much the same in the vineyard. It's about micronutrients, small adjustments. One of my husband's favorite quotes is, the most important thing to see in your vineyard is your shadow. And here's our gorgeous Cabernet Sauvignon. I love showing this picture to people from out of the area because they don't realize this beautiful sort of indigo color that the Cabernet Sauvignon grapes are. It's like a beautiful necklace with jewels, gorgeous purple jewels. And there's the whole complete picture. We did not plan this picture. We thought we'd do a photo out in the cow pasture with them in the background, but we had this wonderful photographer that was taking our picture, and he got really sort of an alarmed look on his face, and I looked over and I said, "Keep shooting," and Mitch, smile. And so there's a sequence of photos with her walking, it's Millicent, walking, and then she just looked up and smiled with us. It's a great unplanned shot. I like to share this because there's been, I think it's less now, but when biodynamics was sort of first getting big on the scene in the wine industry, people were wondering what that's all about, and how is it that you bury a cow horn in the vineyard and expect that to do something? Well, now you know that's not what we do. We bury it somewhere else. But these are not new ideas. Look at what Ben Franklin this is the original version of the Farmer's Almanac, which many of us still use today. He's talking about the lunations, eclipses, judgment of the weather, spring tides, planets. And this is another thing that we do, is we look at not only the seasons, but we look at, are we in a moon cycle or a sun cycle, or we look at the planets. It's actually a little bit like astrology. And so we try to prune at, do we want a descending moon, or do we want, a different phase of the moon for what's happening in the vineyard? So we really do use that. And if you think about it, it's not voodoo, it really is true. We see the tides come and ebb and flow with the moon, and anything with that much water, like our vines, will also ebb and flow. And we really believe, just for a tiny example, that we have less bleed out if we prune on a descending moon. Well, you can't always do that. So we look for the descending moon. When are we going to be available to prune? And we kind of go with the best possible choice. So we're not purists by any sense, but we use all of this in our tool belt, you might say. And we don't have to keep track of all of those moon phases and things, because there are people that make calendars that we can look at and plan our life accordingly. So, now I'm stuck because I don't know how to do the technology part, but I just wanted to, I don't know if we were going to do questions and answers after as a group, or...
Why don't you take questions now?
We're going to do it at the end, all together.
Maybe so. So then I guess I will hand off to Kristen. Or no, I'm sorry.
Paul.
To Paul.
Sure.
Thank you.
Would you like me? May I wander around, or would you like me at the podium?
You may wander.
May I wander? May I wander? All right. Thank you so much. That was great. Thank you so much, Tracy. I appreciate that so much. So I'm Paul. I work with the Lakeside Winery Commission as their education director. I teach a couple of classes over at Minnesota College on viticulture, along with a few of the people here in the room tonight. I'm a Davis graduate in viticulture, and also have a dirt degree from UC Riverside. I am passionate about the quality of Lake County wine grapes and the wines we produce. It is fantastic. So I'm a huge proponent of that. My wife and I live over in Ukiah, and can't quite hear me? Not quite there? I'll just keep going. So since I do teach at Mendocino College, I'm going to start off with a quiz. And I'm wondering if I forgot the Reese's Buttercup. So anyway, I'm wondering if anyone knows when grapes were introduced to Alta, California, not to Baja, California, but to California, when and where we brought grapes to our current state of California. Guesses? Throw it out.
Missionary.
So we got a mission. Which mission? So what's the first mission?
San Diego.
At San Diego.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles had a big industry. It was San Juan Capistrano in 1782. So Mission San Diego was founded in 1769, and then we finally, with having a tough time doing mass, Father Juanico Rosero got grapes planted at San Juan Capistrano. So that worked out really well for us. Anyway, so I didn't have my Reese's Buttercups for you. I was going to mention a little bit about the history of Lake County, because I think it's interesting how we got started. And it's how most of California viticulture got started, and that was the gold rush. So we had a large population coming in the 1850s, and by the 1860s they found out that it was a tough life up in the hills, so we started settling agricultural communities. And the easier communities that we settled were Napa, Sonoma, Livermore, parts of Monterey, parts of Lodi, and that's where most of the early grapes went into it. But we still developed a very serious viticultural and really wine grape growing in that area here in the 1870s to about the 1890s. So we had Hastings, who was really the person that didn't quite found it. He put up $100,000 to get Hastings College of Law down in Berkeley. We had Buckingham here. We had a number of early pioneers, like Aintree coming here in the late 1880s. We had a serious viticultural program here. We were farming about 2,000 acres of grapes up till just before Prohibition. Over in Mendocino County, they had about 3,000. There were about 12,000 down in Napa, about 17 down in Sonoma. But we had a serious, agricultural wine grape growing in here up right till Prohibition. And then at Prohibition, it kind of fell apart for us. The railroad came over to Ukiah in about 1889, and it's still waiting to get here to Lake County. We keep hearing that it'll be here someday. But that really helped a lot of produce and then the wines get out of the county quick, particularly fresh fruit. So while growers were hauling fruit, both pears and grapes, over to Hopland, and then it was being transported out by railroad, that was a tough gig. And so we became essentially the dried pear capital of the world. Still, our fresh pear fruit is probably some of the best quality in the world. It sort of decreased over the years, but we got rid of the grapes, went into pears, and it was that way until really the 1960s, with a handful of growers, the Holden Reeds, Hendersons, Walt Lyon, Walt Madeline were here, and they started planting grapes in the 60s. So we had a revision. So we went from basically 0 acres to about 150 in the 60s, thanks to those folks. And it was, for them, obviously maybe converting out of pears into some other crops. We had walnuts, we had pears, well, let's try some other crops. So they started planting some grapes, and they did pretty well. So from the 60s until about 1990, 1995, we were hovering around a few hundred acres. Jess Jackson was kind of bored in San Francisco, didn't have much to do, so he came up and bought a little 80-acre parcel up just outside of Lakeport, and it was walnuts and pears, and then he planted some grapes there. And he had a great contract going with Barney Fetzer, so he could sell those grapes to Barney. And then one year Barney said, I've had enough grapes, I don't need your grapes anymore. And being the smart lawyer that he was, he went ahead and didn't sue. He went ahead and he's a smart lawyer. He liked those ones. He's a good guy. So he started his own winery. And he started off Chateau du Lac. And one of my friends from college over at Davis, Fred Nickel, was the first winemaker ever to be hired and then fired by Jess Jackson. So Fred was here in 1982 when they started that winery. Fred went over to have a great career in Mendocino, both with Fetzer and Carducci and other places. Fred did very well, making wonderful wines. in Mendocino County. So we started getting into the 1980s, and then finally we had Clay Shannon coming over, about 1992, 94, finding a place up outside Clear Lake Oaks, just kind of up and outside the High Valley area, and planted his vineyard there. Andy Beckstoffer came over and bought the Red Hills area, the Amber Knolls area. We started getting real professional grape growers up here. And I don't mean to slight, Walt Madeline or anybody else, the line with you. Those were conventional farmers. They were conventionally farming grapes the way that we knew out of Fresno, out of Lodi, out of what Davis was teaching us at the time. And then we started having people come in that had experience in Sonoma and Napa and planting the grapes here, and planting them a little bit differently, a little bit tighter, a little closer, different clones. And that's what Andy Beckstoffer and Clay Shannon did for us. Brought us into this next realm that we're in right now of being professional grape growers, producing some of the finest wines really out there. I heard the other day, and I thought it was from Ronald Parker, that some of the Obsidian Ridge wines were scoring way up there in the 92s and 93s. We have the quality here. We're special in Lake County. All of our grapes start at least at 1,330 feet because that's the lake. Most of them are going from 1,330 to about 2,600. Elevation makes a big difference. There's less dust, there's less air, and so we have better UV light actually touching our grapes, making the skins a little bit thicker. And that's where all of our flavors are at in the wine. So we're in a special region, and now we have some really serious professional wine growers here. Randy Craig, who works for Beckstoffer, Bruce Merlees, who works for Shannon. We have some outstanding professional viticulturalists. This is what they've gone to college to do, what they're prepared to do, and they're really assessing the wines to make, the grapes to make the best wines. And along those levels, or ideas, is water. So many people say that water is the most important part of wine grape quality, which kind of goes back to what you mentioned with terroir. And terroir is the accompaniment or the embodiment of everything that's out there. So it's the environment, it's the soil, it's the climate, it's the vine and clone, it's how you prune it, it's how you deal with it. So water, to me, is really that component there to being, it expresses how much growth you get out of the vine. If you overwater, you wind up with kind of flabby, boring balls of water. If you irrigate too much, you also have all the shade, this dense canopy. So we need to have a balance there. So our growers in Lake County here will go out and they'll test either with these things called pressure chambers, so they're testing for moisture of the vine status itself. They'll want to see how much moisture is it? Is it being stressed or not being stressed? They'll look at the soils. They'll use neutron probes. They'll use capacitance probes, TDR materials for the soil. We have a series of about, the neighbors, Brock would know it much better than I, but 20 or so Campbell weather stations around the county, 15 to 20. And then we have a lot of growers have their own individual ones. And so we're looking to predict weather ahead of time, telling us two things. When should we irrigate and how much should we irrigate? So the weather stations help, the soil status helps, knowing the status of the vine really helps. It's a sustainable practice that we're not wasting water. The wine grapes outside of Kids Corner and that area of Red Hills, 2 to 4 inches, 2 to 4 acre inches of water, which means take an acre, stack it about 2 inches to 4 inches. That's how much water gets applied there. Our pears we're using between 18 to 30 inches, and probably closer to 30. It's a pretty thrifty crop. There's a number of areas, and I don't know if you're able to do it, but there's a number of vineyards that are dry farmed. They're able to receive enough moisture during the wintertime that their soils are deep enough, the roots are deep enough that they don't have to irrigate. Those are rare. They are rare. But they're important. So we did a survey with the Wine Grape Commission a few years ago, and about 95% of our vineyards are irrigated. And they're irrigated with the practices of knowing when and how much to apply. We're very judicious in that. We use primarily groundwater, Big Valley, Red Hills, High Valley. It's mainly groundwater that we use. There's a handful of vineyards around the lake, towards what is Bella Vista, so the north side of Kelseyville, a little bit just to the north of Lakeport that Jeff Lyon had his place there. A handful of water comes out of the lake, but not much surface water. Most of our surface water goes over to the valley to Yolo County. Let's go there. But our growers here have progressed from being pioneers to conventional farming to really professional agriculturalists. And they do a very careful job of monitoring insect pests. They do a very careful job of monitoring their water. And if anything needs to be done to correct it. It's not prophylactically done that we go out and spray every 2 weeks. If we don't have to, we don't spray. It's not cost effective. This is a business. And that's one of the 3 E's of sustainability, being economically viable, or the 3 P's. Does it have profit? The 3 E's being that you are environmentally sensitive, that you're economically profitable, and that you're socially equitable. It was brought up earlier, I think it's by Michelle here, that Master Vineyard. And that's not me that did it, that's Randy Craig at Beckstoffer. So Randy Craig, Vineyard, and I have a tough time with that word too.
Say it one more time.
Vineyard.
Now everyone.
French for wine grower. So we're wine growers. And that's where I think there's a little bit of a difference that we shift from being conventional growers of pears and walnuts and into grapes. We're growing wine grapes. We're not growing grapes. It's not table, it's not raisin. We're growing wine for wine quality. So we're growing wine grapes. And that's where Vineyard comes in, and I think that's very appropriate. So the Master Vineyard program is something that was started by the Lake County Winery Commission, which just celebrated its 25th anniversary this last Saturday at a boutique winery up in Red Hills. Fantastic event. So the growers of Lake County joined together and voted to tax themselves, to assess themselves. 1%, isn't it? 1% of gross sales off the top go into a marketing program, and it's marketing Lake County fruit. A number of other commodities also do this. The Cut Flower Commission is there, the Avocado Commission, Lodi has a commission for wine grapes, Sonoma has a commission for wine grapes. There was a 3 fruit that was commissioned. Yeah, the PAB. So there's a number of commodities that market agricultural products from California, from regions inside here, that get together, and they're very effective. And one of the ways that they're effective is supporting programs like Master Vineyard. So for the last 5 years, between 10 and 12 supervisors from Vineyards get together one day a month, and we go see the rest of California's wine grape industry. We go to an amazing convention over in Sacramento in January called the Unified Symposium. There's about 12,000 people that attend. We go there and we take classes. And this is all in Spanish for our folks, because mainly these are supervisors. I'm fluent in Spanish, so it helps that it's in there to drive the bus. But what we start off by going over to Sacramento and having a presentation there, and we walk the trade show floor, and we see harvesters, we see wine equipment, we see so many other of our colleagues there. We go down to Sonoma County, and we see the Sonoma facilities for Kimball Jackson, for Gallo. So we see Kimball Jackson's automated bottling system. We see Gallo's mechanized vineyard blocks. We visit with some of the most amazing vineyards in the world. So we visit Beckstoffer's facilities in Napa. The price of a ton of his Cabernet from Tokaron is around $50,000 per ton. Our price is around $2,200. Which is very nice. That's number 3 in the state. So beginning in 2011, Lake County's Cabernet became the 3rd highest priced Cabernet in California. We were always number 4, number 5, behind Mendocino, Solano, So since 2011, that recognition has come to us. And but the winemakers in Sonoma and Napa are paying for is quality. We grow quality Cabernet. We grow quality Sauvignon Blanc. We grow some amazing grapes here. And we're getting better and better. What's going to be happening in the future is going to probably be more mechanization, because we're going to be losing a labor force. Right now, we're paying about $13.50 an hour for our employees. And then when we hit the overtime coming up over the next 4 years, that's going to increase from 50% up from there. There's just so few people working in agriculture. It's not an industry that many people ask their children to be a part of. It's wonderful having 2nd and 3rd generation people go into agriculture. My sons are in agriculture. It's a disappearing industry. But we have some really special here in our climate. We hear some really special wines. And it is one of the few agricultural businesses that is really looking up for us. We're doing very well here in this county, and we'll continue to do so. I think.
Yay.
Michelle is smart because most conferences will give you the wine afterwards. If you get the wine first, presentations are going to be twice as good. So when you find it on Lake Co News and forward it to a friend, tell them to pour themselves a glass of wine before they view the video, and they'll have the same experience as what you guys did. The topic of the day, obviously, is sustainability in agriculture. Meet the Smith family. Now, what does the Smith family have to do with sustainability in agriculture in Lake County? I'm glad you asked. They're admittedly fictitious, but they represent the 7 million people that live within 150-mile radius of Lake County. So that means while it seems very secluded and lonely up here sometimes, there are 7 million people, that's more than the population of Denmark, that could drive here after work and arrive at the Tolman Hotel on a Friday night. So they're important because they're that third E that Paul talked about, the economic part of sustainability. And for us to get to grow and keep cows and so forth, we need some of these 7 million people that generously come up here and spend the weekends and have a good time. So let's jump into Mr. Smith's regular world of wine. If he wants to make dinner for his wife on a Friday night, he might go down to the local wine store. And he would be overwhelmed and confused. He would run in, he would grab something off the bottle and try not to get embarrassed and run out. Or he could take that casual 3-hour drive up to Lake County and join one of the ranch-to-table dinners at Six Sigma Ranch or with the many other wineries around the lake. And to get here, he would have to actually drive through Napa Valley. And he would drive around a big mountain, a beautiful lake. And if he came out to our place, he would actually have to drive around a cow in the driveway because sometimes they block and give people a very agricultural experience. And sometimes they even leave some of their terroir on the driveway that people then use as they go off-site. And the question then is, why would he do that? Because it's pretty burdensome to come all the way up here and drive 3 hours. To answer the question, we use a very sophisticated business concept called the voice of the customer. It's not actually that sophisticated. You take a bunch of people and you set them around a table and you ask them about your products and life. And this is our real life focus group. These are some of the first customers. Many of them are still customers. We got them together and we asked them, why Lake County? Why Six Sigma Ranch? We had a couple hundred people come up that year. Now we've got about 4,000 that come every year to our winery. And we asked them, what do you guys care about? And they told us something that is startling when you get into the wine industry to make the greatest wine in the world, which we still work very hard to do. But they told us that that's a pretty good bottle of wine. And then they told us that so is that. And so is this, but here comes the startling part that when the bottle goes away, and don't tell anybody in the industry I said this, a lot of consumers, especially in a social setting, won't perceive the nuances of the quality the way that we do. So if it's not just about the nuances of quality, which has to be there, great writers have to do great work, even if it's just their friends that see the nuances. But if it's not just about the quality, why did people come up to Lake County? Why did they bother making the trip? We asked them, and they said, we care about a lot of things. We care about good wine, but we also care about the earth. And we care about people. And we care about friends and family. And if we have kids, we care about experience. And if we have kids, we care about a quiet time to talk. And the trouble with the wine aisle is that that's how Mr. Smith's entire life looks. It's not just the wine aisle, it's his grocery store. It's all of it. It's millions of options. And there's no sense of peace. So the people that sat around the table whom we asked, why do you come to Lake County? They told us, we ask for better, faster, cheaper. But in reality, we lied. We don't necessarily really want better, faster, cheaper. We want a connection with agriculture. And when we're talking about sustainable agriculture, that works out really well for us because it means that when guests come up to see the cow and the cow horn, which I didn't know that doesn't go in the vineyard, by the way. I thought it went in the vineyard. If they come up here and see, they support that sustainable agriculture that we're so excited to do. This drove a discussion, and this is a university setting, so we'll do a very brief session from a business book. From Jim Collins, who pioneered the hedgehog concept. And if you ever read Good to Great, which you should absolutely do, he tells us that hedgehogs are very cool animals. They're not fast, they're not strong, they're not big. But they have one trick. Kind of like the county. We're not that fast or strong, we're not that big. But we have a couple of tricks. So when the hedgehog goes up against the fox, which is fast and strong and big, think Napa, think Los Angeles, think bigger, think big company, think Kendall Jackson versus Hawk and Horse, the fox always loses, even though he has all the advantages, because the hedgehog knows what its strengths are. He always rolls up into a ball, and he always wins. There's no record of a hedgehog ever losing to a fox. That drove the discussion at Six Sigma Ranch to consider what's our hedgehog concept. And Jim Collins says that it has to be based on three things. It has to be something you're passionate about. In our case, we're passionate about farming. It has to be something you can be the best in the world at. Now that doesn't mean necessarily the world. It could be that you're the best tire shop in town, in that world. Or it could be that you're the best ag experience in a community or that could best serve the Bay Area. And it has to drive your economic engine. It comes back to Paul's statement that you can't keep doing it if people won't help support it so that you can sell the product. And in our case, we found after a long time, and it seems so simple when we put it on the screen, that ranch life is our hedgehog concept. So guests come up, they see the cow, they join the dinner, and they have a fabulous time. And this gave us a tremendous amount of clarity when we came up with this, because now when these guys come out, we know exactly what to do with them. There's a number of things we don't do, but we do put them in the pin scour, and we show them a great time. We take them to taste at the tasting room. We show them Bill Davis on a horse, and sometimes we plan for the cattle to come through in front of the tasting room during the tasting, which is a lot of fun. We give them a vineyard tour. We connect them with it. People don't know that grapes have seeds in them when you make them for wine. They don't know they're half as big. And they don't know that when you squeeze the cluster, the sugar content in that group is twice as much as Coca-Cola is. All these cool things that people just don't know, and we're happy to show them. And after we take them to the vineyard and show them the grapes and taste them on the wine, we eventually sell them a few bottles of wine, and we send them home with a wine club membership, and then they can relive that experience. That's part of why wine's so handy, because we don't have to have them here and rent them a boat every time they write us a check. We can get them here, enjoy their presence, send them home, and then they can still pay the vineyard manager's salary at Hawk and Horse and Six Sigma by enjoying the wines back at their table and sharing them with friends. Also works out very well because 80% of our customers come from referrals, so it's handy that they have the wines at their house so they can share it and talk it up and so forth. So, on the thought of selling them wine, let's jump from Six Sigma, where we create a range experience, to Lake County. Isn't it pretty? You can't get that anywhere else. And in Lake County, we have some unique advantages. We have incredible capacity for organic agriculture and biodynamic and sustainable because the weather's so good. So there are things we never have to spray for here because the weather is outstanding. And there are things that people will come up and see because they're so pretty that you can't get anywhere else. I don't know anywhere else that has a giant lake except one place, and it's coming up later, in the middle of a county, and great wine and outdoor adventure. So the county caught on to this last year, and they have put out a campaign that's very good, and they advertised it for their Super Bowl ad. They said, big beautiful lake, outdoor recreation, and great food and wine. And that I think, makes a pretty good stab at Lake County's hedgehog statement. And it doesn't just include the wineries, obviously. It includes everybody. It includes the pears, it includes the experience when you come up here and hire a limo to go around. It includes all the little details of it, which means that all of us are actually part of creating this sustainable agricultural environment so that people come up and enjoy the time they have here and then start shipping the wine home and shipping the pears home and shipping home all these agricultural products that we have the advantage of making, because we're not going to do factories, we're not going to do railroads, but we are going to grow really good products, put our name on them, and send them home to people. And I think that the product has done a fantastic job, or the county has done a fantastic job of putting that into a framework. So when we get here, the guests see everything. They see the people, they see the gas stations, they see all the little details. And that 80% of people that come to us because of referrals, they come because the referral was from someone who was confident to recommend it. So that means that people come up and they pick out all the details. They pick out how we talk about it when they come into the gas station. We're in a great country, we're in a great state, we're in a great environment. But what people really remember is the sense that they have when they're here. And that's all of us in businesses and talking about it. If you're an author, you can't steal stuff. It's called plagiarism. If you're in business, it's called best practices. And so, a fun little comparison. If you ever go to New Zealand, there's a place called Queenstown. Queenstown has a lake in the middle of it that's a little bit bigger than 40,000 acres. And it has a cute town that is vibrant. Beautiful roads, happy people, great restaurants. And it has around it all sorts of agricultural activity and outdoor adventure. It has a big lake in the middle, as you see, and then it has some wineries. And so as far as best practices go, they've focused on the same things that we have here. And they've been on it for a little bit while longer. So I saw it, I thought, hey, how cool. And I thought it was a bit encouraging as we consider a framework for what Lake County is and present it to the world, that someone's already done the homework for us. Isn't that pretty?
It's gorgeous.
And it looks very, very similar to what we have here. They just have a few more tax dollars coming in from having worked on this with a focus for a while. And so they have this vibrant, sustainable agricultural community that we have the opportunity to continue to build on here. We've been working on it for a while, but there's still some work to do. And as I mentioned, it's the job of everybody to set that example and talk about as people come in. Back to the Smiths. When they come in on a Friday night, they join the Tolman Hotel. They go around the lake. They get up the next morning and they hike Mount Canocti. They go down, they have lunch at the brewery and order in a pizza. And they go to the gas station and they hire a limo service and they eat the pears and they order the olive oil and they go to the saw shop. And it's all going into their question, do I recommend it to a friend? This is a place that I want to go. And the answer should be yes. And the answer is yes when we do it. When we recommend it to them, and they recommend it to a friend because they had a fantastic time on the outdoor adventure and out on the lake and with the award-winning food and wine, then we get the privilege of building a sustainable agricultural community. Thank you.
Look at that, no questions. Sharon.
Paul, could you speak to the sustainable wine program for the vineyard owners here?
Sure. So, starting back in 2001, the growers of Lodi area put together a sustainable wine growing program. It was adopted statewide by the California Association of Wine Growers, COG, and the Wine Institute. So the wine growers and the winery components got together and put together a sustainable wine growing program in 2004. Beginning just a few years ago, about 2011, they had it as a certified program. And what they came up with was a program, so we're at the college, so this is your 3-inch binder. And so Sharon's going, I had to deal with that all the way to LA. So this program here has 138 different practices or criteria that are assessed by both the grower and then an independent third-party auditor to see where you are on the continuum of sustainability. And it's not that there's one point in time or place or chemicals that you're sustainable. And it includes viticultural practices, so how we prune, how we space, how we cultivate, how we take care of insect pest management. Are we out there scouting every 2 weeks to say, there's nothing here, we don't have to spray. I'm here with my pressure chamber and I'm looking at my soil and I'm like, it's nice and moist. I don't have to irrigate. I don't have to waste resources or the economics of that. This is an amazing guide. It also addresses such things as PM10s, particulate matter 10, which gets into our lungs and causes cancer on us. It looks at those practices both in wineries and vineyards. It looks at the safety practices of your vineyard employees. Are you doing monthly tailgate safety meetings? Are you teaching them about heat stress? Are you talking about sexual harassment? Are you talking to your employees about how to behave in the vineyard and in society? Philanthropy. Do you give back to your community, either to your schools? Do you have other visits from newspapers coming in? It is all here about your community. When we're getting ready to harvest, and we've got these big sets of double trucks with 25 tons of pears or grapes on them going down the road, do we kind of let people know that we're doing that? Do we put up signs saying we're spraying our pears? Yeah, we do, because we don't want people getting caught in all that mess. Are we community members as agriculturalists? All of the things are addressed in here, and there's various levels that you can be at. No, I never put up signs I'm going to spray, or yeah, I called my neighbors last week, or I know all my neighbors, or I live a mile away from anybody. The Sustainable Program has done an amazing job of bringing in the economics, the environment. Do you have a buffer zone away from the lake? Do you have, you're not going to spray above 7 miles per hour. You're protecting the environment, your community, yourself, your workers, and it goes way beyond biodynamics and organic. It encompasses all of our life.
Can you speak to some of the economic incentives around becoming certified?
So, in Lake County, we have a handful of American viticultural areas. They are Big Valley, there's the Kelsey Bench, there's High Valley, there's Red Hills, we've got Vineyard. These can be an economic benefit to putting it onto the bottle saying, this is our special terroir, this is our special sense of place. Sustainability can do the same thing for you. And now that in the next coming years, you're able to put certified sustainable on the bottle saying, we've addressed concerns of our workers, the environment, and practices. We no longer use leaching herbicides such as simazine in our vineyards. We go ahead and scout every 2 weeks to make sure that we don't have pest problems. And then wineries recognize that, and when you put in the bottle, they'll pay you $25 a ton extra over your contract price for you to become certified sustainable. So in those trucks that you see going down the road that have 20 to 25 tons of fruit, that's an extra $1,000 in the grower's pocket for going through the practices and saying, hey, I've certified this, this, and this. $25 a ton. That's Coppola, Kendall Jackson, Vogel, Michael David, and there's going to be more every year. So it's an economic incentive as well as doing the right thing. It's really neat.
I have a question for Tracy and Christian from maybe different coasts. Now, you mentioned DC and New York,
Yes.
so the East Coast, and if you could talk to your experience and how that kind of translates into people saying, hey, Lake County, that's the kind of wine when I go into Christian's mega wine store that I want to buy. And then your experience, Christian, on the people who are right within our reach, actually, what you're kind of seeing just in your own day-to-day with people's recognition of, hey, Lake County, that's the wine. I don't want to look at the 10,000 others, that's where I want to go. So maybe if you could start and then you could.
I'll speak from here if everyone can hear me. So we sell most of our wine direct to consumer. We're very small. It's a stealth model. We don't have a full-on staff at the ranch. It's mostly my husband and myself. We have 18 acres that we farm. We have international gold medals on every single vintage. 15 acres of Cabernet Sauvignon and 1 acre each of Petit Verdot, Petit Syrah, and Cabernet Franc. So we're very small. Our price point starts at $70 a bottle for the Cabernet. It goes up to $150 a bottle. So our target market isn't necessarily here. It's also not necessarily California. But we find that in certain places we really have taken off, and those places happen to be New York, Florida, Las Vegas. Those are probably our 3 biggest markets. So we have a sort of a marketing engine. We do a lot of outreach. We go to events, but we also just use every contact possible. We do get a lot of referral as well. Sometimes we have clients we've had for many years that have never been to the vineyard but heard about it or met us when we were at an event in New York. So we sort of take the show on the road. We'll go to, if we enter our wine in a competition, you get the gold medal, there's a gala event in Manhattan, we'll go. We'll bring our Lake County diamonds, our cow horns. I bring a jar of dirt, of Red Hills soil. And so we're promoting Hawk and Horse Vineyards, but we're also promoting Lake County. And, we do see a trickle back because those people that sign up for our wine club or become regular wine buyers, sometimes they are planning a trip to Napa. It seems like everyone's wine country is synonymous with Napa, but they'll make the trek to come and do a tour with us. And they love Lake County. People are loving Lake County. I think that there are some things missing, and when I talked about potential earlier in our community, it would be great to have, we lost the Boar's Breath restaurant in Middletown. There's no place great to go out that's South County. There are very few fine dining establishments here, and gosh, I'd just love to get a great chef to reopen something at that location in Middletown. I think we can really use a sort of more tourism-based, great eateries, shops, things like that. We have a little bit. Middletown's really cute. Kelseyville's really cute. So that's my experience, is that people come here because of Hawk and Horse Vineyards. They're not coming to Hawk and Horse Vineyards because they're here. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it's great. Thank you, because I know that that's a lot of your outreach, so it's a great perspective.
And we also do more direct to consumer than anything else, but we do have markets. Our biggest is in New York, where we have our wines in a number of very nice restaurants. As far as guests coming to stay here, there's a cool thing that happened 15 years ago when we came up here. We thought, well, infrastructure needs to catch up, and still should, right? You see some of these places like Queenstown, and they've got more cool stuff going on. More restaurants, more places to stay. But some of it has actually sort of passed on the inside lane, because as far as infrastructure goes, we've got a couple of decent hotels, and then we've got Airbnb. Suddenly software solved the hotel shortage in Lake County over the course of 12 months. So we've got all kinds of people coming up and staying at Airbnb. And it also levels the playing field, because they're going search for wine country Airbnbs. Great. Lake County's spot on. They plug it into their iMaps and whatever, and then there's 2.5 hours. Easy. So it gives us a huge advantage. And I'll push back a little bit. It came up whether or not agriculture was dying or not. I think, there were 6 wineries here when we started in Lake County, 6 sort of full-scale production wineries, and now there are 40 brands with tasting rooms. So I think there's a very positive trend going on up here, and a great opportunity for guests to come and visit them. Yes?
Okay, I love hearing these remarks about the importance of a balanced visitor experience for agriculture in Lake County. And one mention, as we all know, we've now got a national monument. Most of it is in Lake County. And this is another opportunity for building in another strand to that experience. People like to get out into nature, like seeing something which is really wild. And I'm wondering, Christian in particular, since you are collecting the we're trying to develop a recreational management plan for the monument. And input from the kinds of people who want to come out and ride in your Pinzgau or come up for Hawk and Horse would be very, very valuable in doing that. And I'm hoping that you can participate in this kind of discussion.
Yeah, we'd be happy to talk about it. We actually have a funny story about the National Monument. There's some sort of a glitch in Apple's maps, so that they attempt to lead people to the monument by going down our driveway. So we've gotten a great deal of positive traffic, and even converted some of the wine club members when they realized that it was a dead end before they turned around and came back.
I would land on one of those horses.
It's great for business already.
Victoria, will they be allowing wheeled vehicles in there like bicycles?
Oh, yeah, it depends, and not in the wilderness areas, but in the rest of the monument. Some of it in the Mendocino National Forest is developed with OHV routes, and a lot of it is for mountain biking and
Good,
so forth.
because we lost a big
Depends.
significant area in Cobb, so it's sad.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that hiking and riding and things like that associated with the wine business. And there's one good example, I think it's Vigilance and Gregory Graham have a little trail. So you can go to one winery and park and then have a little hike over across the road to the other one. And it would be kind of neat to see that happen more where there are properties like yours sounded like are adjoining, where you could have a hiking tour or something.
That would be fun.
Eventually little inns along the way. So you
Yeah.
do 3 wineries and then stay the night.
I like the way you're thinking.
We border each other.
We
but
could do that
We
between
have
ours.
1,300 acres and our highway frontage is on the west part of our property and Six Sigma's on the back. We could do it we've talked about
That's a
maybe
good
doing
idea.
it by horseback or something would be
I
fun.
like this plan.
And if
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
link it to Gwinnett too, I mean, another 24,000 acres.
Yeah. And we've dabbled a little bit with ranch stays in our case. We haven't quite jumped into building cabins yet, but we are connected to a network called Harvest Hosts that then sends us recreational vehicles and Airstream trailers. They'll come out and taste the wine and join an event, and then we have a couple of spots down by the creek where they can park and hang out for the evening.
That is a neat one.
It works
Jackson
well.
Keys does it too.
I think there was a question over there. It got answered by some.
Well, I think we all know that we've got the marijuana leaf coming down upon us pretty heavily, pretty soon. And I'm wondering how the people who grow pears, walnuts, wine grapes, who've worked so hard to really establish this community as you are describing, do you guys think about that, talk about that, and figure out how you're going to continue to maintain and drive what you've built?
We have about 25 miles of fence line around the property, and it takes a little bit of maintenance because people often think it's fun to go put a couple of alternative agriculture crops on our place thinking we won't notice. And so our very simple, convenient solution is we have a wine club member who happens to work for the sheriff's department. So I just call him every time, and he comes out with a helicopter, cleans it up. I send him a free bottle of wine for his trouble. So that's our approach so far.
Boy, so I'll preface this with saying that I'm currently taking high blood pressure medicine. And so us in agriculture in California, it's amazing the hoops we go through. Every application of any type of pesticide is sent in once a month. If I'm putting out nitrogen fertilizer, I'm telling the state, or will be telling the state, here's how much I put out. During the drought, you're using water. I saw your sprinklers come on. Well, yes, I had to, because if not, my entire crop would have been lost in Big Valley to frost. Boy. The pot growers do none of this. None of it. And And so in Mendocino County, they're going to come underneath the ag commissioner there. The guesstimate is in Mendocino that there's maybe 8,000 growers, and we have an ag commissioner, and we have about 8 biologists. And I'm going, you're going to supervise this? And it's still a federal illegal? And so with the blood pressure medication kicking in, I'm going to stop.
I mean, I'll chime in on that too. I think it's really complicated, and the historical, sort of recent historical perspective on that is that if you recall, it looks like most of you probably lived here for some time, is that we a couple of years ago passed an ordinance where we were pushing the dispensaries out of towns because you could hardly walk into town. We were feeling that pressure when we would have VIP clients come in from Florida or New York, and we want to say like, yeah, go have breakfast at the Cowpoke in Middletown and then walk around town. I couldn't do that anymore because it wasn't safe and it wasn't fun. I couldn't walk in town with my kids anymore because it wasn't safe and it wasn't fun and it wasn't healthy because people were smoking pot there. It's the first time we felt like we had to lock the car. And so when they're talking about legalizing it, they talk about medical marijuana, but what's really happening is recreational marijuana. The wine industry is one of the most, far more regulated than just the ag part. When you're growing grapes and making wine, it is probably one of the most regulated substances, food items out there. And so, yeah, I think that we all have a little bit of passion about it because the marijuana industry is notorious. I mean, people think they're just getting an herb, but they don't know what kinds of chemicals have gone into that herb. And will that stop? And who will manage all of that? So I think that, you know, and I'm on the board of directors for the Wine Institute too, and I know that there's a feeling that we really want to maintain a separateness. There are a lot of things about marijuana because it's not very regulated. There are a lot of unknowns. I mean, my medical doctors are very against the smoking of marijuana. Maybe there are medicinal things going on with that has to be looked into. It's probably very valuable, but what's happening here is it's I think we're not looking at it in a big enough view. And I think in terms of agriculture, it's complicated because it's a crop and they're growing something, and I know that the Farm Bureau has struggled with that, is what is the role of the growers, and if it's legalized. No, it isn't federally legal either, and it is a very potent drug. The marijuana of today is not the marijuana of the 1960s, by the way. So it's complicated. I think we all need to watch it very carefully. I think we all need to get out there and vote if you have an opinion about it. And I'd like to at least see it slowed down.
So the #1 county for sales of rat poison is Mendocino County. To keep it, the estimate for the gallons that a marijuana plant uses per day is 6 gallons per day per plant, and we're using about 3 to 4 a week for our grapes. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you know, my idea was that, well, if they legalize marijuana, then at least it'll be regulated like agricultural crops. But the latest maps that I've heard about or seen are they're banning all marijuana growth from agriculturally zoned areas. Or they don't. That's not going to be an allowed area in this. What the planning department's going over now. So I was just kind of wondering if anyone knows if is that what the ag community would
I'm
prefer?
hearing the opposite of that. And it's even coming commercial, industrial, and you can go into any mobile home park you want and be next door. It's a different beast. It's a problem.
I was just going to say, I'm a grape grower and a walnut grower. And, it's difficult. Alcohol production started out as an illegal drug after Prohibition, and it became legal, and this is the same thing with marijuana, so it's difficult to talk about it. But what makes me mad as a taxpayer is that you're calling them growers and they're going to be planting their plants on agricultural land, but they're really not going to be obeying the laws that farmers have to obey. They're not going to be reporting pesticides use. They're not going to be reporting
we're going to work through this the next 10 years. I think Jim Wood, who wrote at least a good portion of the state law, is saying we've got some growing pains to go through. We really do. But the current system doesn't work for anybody.
Brock, I wanted to tell you that 2 years ago, my New Year's resolution was eat more walnuts. And it was one I could like knock out. I ate like 5 walnuts the year before, so I ate 15 that year. And I was like, so we're coming up on the new year. Who wants to use my resolution? Raise your hands. All right.
I'm doing it.
Yay for walnuts. It's 8 o'clock and our panel has been excellent. And before we give them a big round of applause, I want to thank all of you for coming. I want to invite you to come back in December with food, perhaps walnuts. But most of all, and it's kind of interesting that we went off on a different topic. And what I appreciate about this community is how passionate they are about our community, how invested you are in making it great, moving it forward, and just the care and commitment that everyone has. And when we moved here, I call it the first place I lived as a grown-up with kids. That's what struck me. And there's a lot of people in this room that I watched and learned from that really love this place. And so I want to thank all of our panelists because that was the overarching thing that I thought of with all of them. They're really excellent at what they do. They care so much. I think it was awesome that they jumped in and talked about a really tough topic too with heart and authenticity. So I want to give them all a great big thank you. So let's do that.
Thank you.
Excellent. So, John Jensen from Lake Canoes, thank you so much to Lake Canoes for taping this. And how do people access this and share it with their friends?
We'll probably run this story on Sunday.
Okay? And then people can just go to, you'll have the video embedded.
Yeah, the video will be embedded and it'll be on YouTube in perpetuity.
Awesome, thank you so much. Thank you all.
We're going into agricultural.
I'm going to talk to you because we're going to
So,